Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 18-Minute Experts, the podcast that unpacks big industry topics in small, practical conversations in the wonderful world of group benefits. I'm your host, Jeff Bremner, and today we're heading east to discuss a market that can feel a little, mysterious, the province of Quebec. If you've ever had a client open a Quebec location or hire Quebec employees, you've likely felt the chill. Different rules, different requirements, and more questions than answers. But what if the barrier to entry didn't have to be so scary? My guest today is someone who knows the market inside and out, and he's here to help us demystify the Quebec benefits landscape and explore what makes it so unique within Canada. But before we lift the curtain on this conversation, a quick shout out to our listeners. If you enjoy the content, please be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts for upcoming episode reminders. You can also catch us online at peoplecorporation.com/18minexperts. And if you're a full chocolate bar household on Halloween and in that giving mood, please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback fuels our journey to deliver the best content possible. Now grab a handful of candy, get comfy, and let's jump into sinister strategies for success in the Quebec market. All right, let's get going. I am joined today by Benoit Dulong, the Vice President, Brokerage Distribution for People Corporation in Quebec. Bonjour, Benoit.
Bonjour, Jeff. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
Yeah, great too. Yeah. A pleasure to be here with you today. Yeah.
Amazing. Really excited about this. Why don't you start by telling our listeners just a little bit about your background in the industry and what you do for People Corporation?
Okay. Came in the industry in 1996. So it will be 30 years next year. So I'm still young, but time goes fast. I was working on the MG world for others up to 2008. And in 2008, I joined the GSQ in Quebec as one of the owner of the place that we developed for a few years, and we sold it to PC in 2022, June 2022, and that was a really good year to do that. And since then, Eric Noss, the leader of Quebec, asked me maybe 1 year and a half ago to join him and develop the brokerage in Quebec. Help others, and that's it. Developing.
Amazing. You know, Benoit, we've got, quite a few different types of audience members. We've got advisors who are, brand new to the business. We've got advisors who've been practicing for decades. You've got plan sponsors, plan members. Even my kids listen to the podcast just because they think it's hilarious to hear their dad on a podcast, right? So let's maybe start with the big picture. For advisors who haven't worked in Quebec before, what really sets Quebec apart from the rest of Canada when it comes to group benefits?
First of all, there's a lot of rules in Quebec. We have the AMF, Autorité des marchés financiers. We have a special license, a group insurance license that nobody else have across Canada. We have to... there's a cultural difference, taxable benefits that you have also in Canada, but not on healthcare, dental care. So it's completely another thing. A bit maybe harder to understand, but once you understand, it's a cool place to develop and go get new clients.
Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot about things like RAMQ and obviously the sort of the difference in licensing, with Quebec being, I believe, the only province that requires a specific group license, right? Maybe tell us a little bit more around like RAMQ and how the list of medications affect insurer pricing or plan design. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
The RAMQ. In Quebec, everybody have to have a drug coverage. If it's not public, it's private. And if somebody have access in Quebec through their job or an association, they have to take that plan, no choice. So we know our competitor, it's quite clear. And just to let you, I give you maybe one or two numbers. Actually, the general prescription drug insurance plan in Quebec is costing $766 per adult. So 2 times that for a family. The kids are no cost for the kids; it's free for them. And there's deductible, and the reimbursement plan is at 78%. And the list is a bit shorter than what we have in private plans. So if you're an employer, you have employees, they have to pay that tax at the end of the year. It's a tax. So it's good for the business because we know our competitor, when they change their pricing, we know it. It's in the newspapers. So we use that to go get new business who don't have plans. And once they have a plan, they don't quit it. What we see actually is nearly 100% of the plans stay in place. As long as the company stay in force. If the company have financial problems, normally it would close before they close the group insurance plan for the employees. So we saw through the pandemic in 2020. I was a bit afraid at March and April 2020, and we lost nearly nothing. Everybody stayed on their plan, and the one we lost retook it on the beginning of 2021. Nearly everybody. So it's cool. The market is good in Quebec for us.
We talked a little bit about, the AMFs and licensing. What's sort of the biggest misconception for out-of-province advisors about Quebec licensing? Like what would happen if somebody were to place a piece of business in Quebec and they didn't have the proper license? Like, what are the consequences of that?
The consequences, they could use somebody else who have the license in the province, for sure. If they want to go get the license, there's a path a bit long and hard to follow. Once they have a license, they have to find somebody that will keep them, coach them for 6 weeks. Because, how do you say that? I don't know the word in English. I'm better in French, but if somebody who have a license have to stay with you for 6 weeks and to help you finalize your license.
Almost like a mentorship.
Exactly.
Program.
Thank you, Jeff. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah, mentorship.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's really helpful context, Benoit. I think, for many advisors and plan sponsors that are listening, Quebec might sound a little bit more complex than it actually is.
It is, yes.
But that complexity becomes real the moment it touches the business or their clients. Like, we've seen situations where, a company expands into Quebec and suddenly the advisor and plan sponsor are dealing with a completely different set of requirements. From your perspective, what tends to catch advisors and plan sponsors off guard the most when a business does expand into Quebec, whether that's, just simply through growth or expansion or an acquisition?
Yeah, okay. The thing we see the most, I believe, is the fact that we have to be on the plan at 100% of the employees. We both know that normally the contract are asking for that, but it's not a law. So there's a huge difference there. So we see people coming from Ontario or somewhere else, having a shop here or a division or employees, and don't have the mental set to say to our employees, you don't have the choice, be on the plan. So if they don't do that, they will have fines from the government if they don't do their job for the government, because they're doing the part that the government is supposed to supervise that, but they're not. They put that pressure on the employers. So it's what we see in Quebec. Normally, a business from Quebec will know that and will go through that easily. When they come from somewhere else, sometimes it's an issue.
Yeah, you're right. I think about, participation guidelines that we would typically see here, and I'm in Ontario. Maybe, if there's less than 10 employees, you need to have 100% participation. If there's If it's between 10 and 25 employees, you need 85% participation. And then it goes to 75% after that. But you're saying that on any size group, that the company is required to have 100% of the employees on the plan taking coverage.
Yeah, because in Quebec, if an employee have access to a group plan, he or she have to be on the plan. No choice. They could produce a proof that they're covered by the spouse, but at the end, they have to be on the plan. First thing. Second thing that maybe it could be a surprise for employers coming from somewhere else is the taxable benefits that we have, as I said at the beginning of the discussion, the taxable benefits in Quebec. So on healthcare, dental care, so it's costing more money here. There's the direct cost and the fiscal cost after that. So managing that and be sure that they put their money at the good place. We have tools to do that. If they don't use that kind of tools, they will certainly have not the good numbers at the end of the T4 of the employees.
Yeah, interesting. Another thing that I've heard in the past is, and again, I don't profess to be an expert on the Quebec market, right? Which is why we've got you on this recording. Drug caps. Drug caps tend to be fairly popular, I would say, outside of the Quebec market. Are you able to do drug caps in Quebec?
No, not possible. I saw a few times in the past, and I was not feeling well doing that. But an employer from Toronto asked us to put a cap at $5,000 on drugs. It's not more than not common in Quebec. It's illegal. So if an employee we have at GSU, we have a couple of twins, young kids. Their cost actually is $1.4 million a year for the last 3 years. And anyway, it's raising to 1.5 this year. There's no way we could put that away. So it will be a fully reimbursed. And in Quebec, when you have an out-of-pocket of over $1,232, the end of the year is paid at 100%, even if your plan is at 80, 85, 90%. So there's an out-of-pocket to protect the people who are not in good shape by an accident or something. Yeah. And to go through that and keep the business alive and able to pay, we have the mutualization in Quebec. You have EP3 in Canada. In Quebec, there's another mutualization. By example, Jeff, if you have under 24 employees, the maximum money that will be under your responsibility at the renewal is $10,000 per person or per certificate, depending on the insurers you're working with. So at 2549, it's $18,000, $500. So everybody's stuck together in Quebec. Even if you're at Canada, if Sun Life, Manulife, UV Mutual, no problem. We're all on the same mutualization plan. Yeah.
Right. That's great, right? Because you got to have that protection in place, especially for, I mean, it's for all groups, but some of these smaller groups, if you ever had to take on a, $200,000 claim or something, like
yeah.
they can't afford
a disaster. Yeah, that's it.
The benefit, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And they cannot afford to lose their employees. So I think it's a good way of saying the business in Quebec, I believe so.
I'm learning a lot already. This is amazing. So we've talked, I think a little bit here about structure, right? The rules, the licensing, the things that make Quebec unique. But of course, that's just one side of the story. The other side is, what's happening in the market itself, the economy, the workforce, and the business environment that advisors are supporting. From your vantage point, what broader economic or business trends should advisors outside the province be aware of? And how might those trends affect their clients who have Quebec-based operations or employees?
I'm not sure if that kind of the angle that we have to look at it. I believe that they have to listen. It's what we all have to do, listen to the clients. It's actually in 2025, if you are working in the forestry, it's not a good year with what is happening to the south. But otherwise, the business is still keep going. So we have to listen to what your client needs and deliver that. and provide them what is new in the market, show them what they could help them to think. It's the way we see the business actually. So there's other than that, the market in Quebec, even in Quebec, is different from Montreal, Quebec. You go in the middle of the province, you go near Ottawa, it's different. When you go, by my experience, when you serve the Anglophone market in Quebec, you have more dental care. When you go on the French side, there's less dental care. I don't know why, but it's cultural. French people ask less dental coverage. When you go near Quebec or near Ottawa, there's more employees working for the government. So, yeah, Canadian or Quebec Canada government. So there is less pressure on the group plan because a lot of people have in their family somebody in the couple working for the government who have super nice plans. So even in Quebec, there's difference. So we have to listen to the clients to be sure that we provide what they really need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listening is always the most important skill, and it's all about, every client's going to be a little bit different. They're all going to have different needs, right? There's never a one size fits all approach. What about industries, like specific industries in the Quebec market? Are you seeing more activity right now? Just thinking about like where do the opportunities lie? We think about some other markets where they've seen a lot of growth in technology or growth in manufacturing. What are you seeing across Quebec these days in terms of industry?
What I see will come is we'll have to invest in defense in Canada and in Quebec and in aerospatial. Planes, everything. I believe it will be the locomotive of the Quebecan economy for the next 10, 20 years. It's my personal opinion, but I believe there's a lot of money involved and somebody will have to expand business, create businesses, employ people, go get new smart people, maybe from somewhere else on the globe, because the Quebec market is too small for what we will need in the future. So I believe defense and aerospatial would be super good for the Quebec economy for a long time. My kids will see that.
All right. So, I think you've painted a very clear picture of, why Quebec can feel like new territory for advisors outside the province. But, of course, it's, just because it's different doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be difficult, right? A lot of advisors want to support clients with Quebec employees or pursue opportunities they have in that market. They just don't want to risk getting it wrong. So what does a smooth experience look like for an advisor who would like to partner with somebody who already really understands the Quebec market?
Yeah, I think the first way to see it, as you put it, it's collaboration with people who know their market. If I go with a client in Ontario, I will call you, Jeff, or somebody in your team say, hey, help me, because I'm working nearly 100% of my time in Quebec. So we have people who are solid here, who love to help others. So the MJ world here is built around helping others. So we have strong teams who could help you navigate in that new market for you if it's new, and as a team, that's it. So, and if you need more information, if you want to learn, somebody will help you. If you just want to do business and still look good because you don't want to look bad, we will help you too. So, and when I say we, I know a lot of people in Quebec who think like me. So you will not be alone.
Benoit, is there any sort of, I would say additional administrative complexity that comes with the Quebec market? And I'm thinking more around certain obligations, potentially with RAMQ or things along those lines that maybe is just a little bit more administrative stuff that a plan sponsor or an advisor would have to manage than they would outside of the Quebec province.
Yeah, the two main challenges maybe are the obligation to be on the plan, to manage that to be sure that your employee is giving you you are not the police. But if you know that one of your player have a family, you have to put the family on the plan. So managing that could be, in some situation, could be a nice challenge because employees don't always listen. And the other maybe challenge is managing all the fiscal side of where the employees are putting their premiums and where the employees invest his money, just to be sure that it's efficient at the end of the year, that there's not too much taxable benefits. We want the employees to pay their health care first, just to be sure that they don't have the taxable benefits of that part of the premiums. So if the split is at 50-50, I want to put my money as an employee on the life insurance, don't have the double impact on the federal side and on the Quebecer side. And after that, on the healthcare, just to be sure that we're efficient. So we have tools to manage that, to help the employers and the brokers to be sure that at the end of the year, they produce the good numbers, the more efficient one that they could. I think it's maybe the two more challenge that they could meet in Quebec as employers and as brokers.
Yeah. So if we had let's say there was an advisor, listening to this podcast and they've got a client who has a Quebec division, or they've got an opportunity that exists through a relationship to write a piece of business in Quebec. What are some of the things that your MGA would sort of take on for that advisor?
Nearly everything. If they want to go up there, they could just say, somebody, they have the power to say yes or no. They are decision makers in the business. Meet that team or that person with the specialist in the MGA and work on it as a team. And after that, you could let the Quebec team do all the job from the beginning, going on the market, helping the client through between the market and the first renewal, and negotiating the renewal. So the broker at that in that kind of scenario just have to be there to say, "Hey, take care of my client." So the broker is my client. It's not the employer. It's the broker who is my first client around the table. It's important to understand that.
Okay. So from an advisor's point of view, does this mean that they can stay fully involved with the client, even if they're not licensed in Quebec? Like, can they still be part of the process, even though your team is there supporting the day-to-day administration and supporting on the renewals and doing all of those things? Like, how involved can the advisor, we'll call it a sub-advisor in this case, how involved can they be in the process?
They don't have the right to give advice, but they could, I'm not sure I could say that, but be watchdog, just to be sure that their client is happy, that we understand what they're asking for, and challenge us. Now, the broker has to challenge his MGA, his team, just to be sure that everything, the delivery of the service is okay, more than okay, it's perfect, and we shoot where we're supposed to shoot. Other than that, if they don't have the license, they're not supposed to, they could be there, but they have to let the Quebec specialists work.
Yeah, I love the insights on this. I appreciate that, Benoit.
A pleasure.
Thanks so much for joining me today.
With great pleasure. I had fun. Thank you again for the invitation, Jeff.
And there you have it, folks. Another episode of 18-Minute Experts in the books. Remember to receive notifications for future episodes. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. When it comes to navigating the complexities of group benefits, knowledge is power. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered. Bonne journée.